Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following all the news which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African and Australian channels and AFP, AP, Reuters news agencies. Now please watch the news headlines.
For millions of Americans also tonight, the air quality concerns for millions of Americans also breaking what ABC News has just learned involving Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, what she allegedly just told the Justice Department involving President Trump, and the breaking headline tonight involving legendary director Francis Ford Coppola. First, the images from Chicago to Detroit, New York to Boston, the dangerous air quality for millions of Americans, hundreds of Canadian wildfires filling U.S. skies with smoke. New York City's air quality now ranking among the top 10 worst in the world. And the wildfires in the West tonight, new images of families getting out. Ginger Z is here. Also tonight, sources now telling ABC News about what Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, said during her 2 days of meetings with the Justice Department and what she said about President Trump. And tonight, the president is asked about what happened just days after that meeting. Ghislaine Maxwell transferred from federal prison in Florida to a minimum security camp in Texas. Also tonight, under arrest, the man accused of killing a family of 4 and abducting their baby, then abandoning that baby. What authorities are now saying tonight about the arrest and the condition of the baby. Tonight, the scathing new Coast Guard findings about the Titan submersible tragedy. 5 lives lost trying to explore the Titanic and what's now been revealed. The showdown in Texas. Tonight, President Trump saying Republicans are, quote, entitled to those seats, citing his victory in that state. Democrats trying to keep this from happening. Congressional maps are generally tied to the census. In New York City, a deadly outbreak of Legionnaire's disease tonight. At least 3 patients have now died. Many more sickened. What causes this? News tonight about Oscar-winning director Francis Ford Coppola in the hospital. The cause of death now revealed for Ozzy Osbourne. Tonight, Robin Roberts face-to-face with endangered mountain gorillas and the tense moments. Tonight here, the effort to save the endangered animals. And in New York City and New Jersey, for the second time in 3 days, a small earthquake rattling the region. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is... It's coming your way! Hey, hey! It's video of the day! Hey, hey!
It is hard to look past a Democrat who puts America last. Our video of the day comes from a political summit in Mexico, where Democrat Congresswoman Delia Ramirez declared she's more proud to be Guatemalan than an American. Watch here.
I want to finish by saying a few words in Spanish because I am a Guatemalan with much pride before I am an American.
I mean, even members of Antifa are more patriotic than that. The White House condemned the remarks as despicable, accusing Democrats of prioritizing foreign interests over American ones. Democrats, they sure changed. When Obama was in office, he pretended he wasn't from Kenya. I mean, I debated on whether I should say that. I was like, I know it's a joke. It's a joke, everybody. But imagine being a member of Congress, being in a foreign country, and saying something like that.
I can't. This is the kind of thing that really drives me crazy. We have to bring back oaths. Like you put your hand on the Bible and you do a solemn oath and it means something. Maybe this chick did take an oath when she was sworn in. Maybe she was just lying, but I want her deported like yesterday. She goes to another country, speaks in another language, talks about, I'm Guatemalan before I'm American. Well, guess what? You're going to be going to Alligator Alcatraz before you go home. Oh, God. And I guess her husband is here illegally, too. She proudly boasts of that on her website. So, calling Tom Holman. We have for the next contestant on Guatemala is right.
She tried to walk it back, Kat, with basically saying, well, actually, that's not what I meant. But the translation is pretty clear.
Well, not to me. I stopped doing Duolingo.
Because all the Duolingo teaches you is Juan Baby Leche.
It's like Duolingo. It's like, teach me something that I need, and not like the dog and the cat were knitting in the park. Like, I'm never gonna need to say that, to the point where I start questioning, is that really what the sentence means? Because why would a dog and a cat be knitting in a park? So it's very difficult, and they get you addicted with a streak. So I was in that prison for a long time. I was in that prison for a long time where I'd be with my loved ones, sitting there on my phone like, the dog and the cat in the park. So I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I let it lapse, and honestly, I feel free. I feel free. But I might have been better at understanding it if I'd stuck with the Duolingo. But yes, in her statement, she also kind of went the attack route a little bit. Nobody says this if people are proud to be Irish Americans or proud to be Ukrainian Americans, and I think tried to make it a race thing also. But has anybody said I'm Irish first and American second? That I know. I think regardless, any other country should not take precedent than the one that you have, I believe, right, taken an oath to represent.
Yeah, and she has it. A financial lifeline this Tuesday night for Canada's softwood lumber industry in the face of U.S. tariffs.
America is in effect charging for access to its economy.
Growing wildfires threatening parts of Newfoundland and Labrador. The suspicions people are fueling the flames. Israel's possible plan to seize control of Gaza. Who could stop it from becoming a reality? Willful ignorance and arrogance. The scathing new report blaming OceanGate's CEO for the Titan submersible disaster. Plus, acing it.
She's so solid mentally.
The latest teenage Canadian tennis phenom making a racket.
Look at that show with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight. The Gotcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We're hearing from Prime Minister Mark Carney for the first time since the U.S. increased tariffs on Canadian goods. The August 1st deadline imposed by President Donald Trump has come and gone with no sign of a trade deal and no word from the federal government of any plans to retaliate. But Carney is preparing financial supports for some industries hit hard by the levies. Mackenzie Gray has our top story tonight.
It's the Liberals' lifeline for one of BC's biggest sectors.
The forest industry is a pillar of the Canadian economy.
That pillar getting $1.2 billion in loans and grants to aid struggling forestry companies diversify markets and retrain laid-off workers. Just one of many industries rocked by tariffs.
The U.S. is in the process of fundamentally changing all of its trading relationships. In a series of recent agreements, America is in effect charging for access to its economy.
That access getting even more expensive for Canadian softwood in late July, when the U.S. jacked duties to 27%.
It is important that we get this resolved to resolve that uncertainty that's looming over the sector right now.
The Prime Minister's press conference is first since Donald Trump increased Canadian tariffs on non-free trade goods to 35%. Carney wouldn't say if Canada would retaliate, instead opening the door to dropping tariffs.
We look at what we can do for our industry that's most effective. In some cases, that will be to remove tariffs.
Elbows up.
Elbows up.
From elbows up to easing up. A major shift from Mark Carney, whose election message was promising to fight Donald Trump. The Prime Minister also listing the 2026 renegotiation of the Canada-US.
Hello there, very good morning to you this Wednesday morning. Migrants will be able to exploit human rights loopholes to avoid returning to France.
Well, according to the new terms of the treaty, small boat migrants will be ineligible for deportation if they have outstanding human rights claims or other legal challenges.
The treaty also gives France and other member states a veto over which individuals are returned.
So, has this new deal, hailed by the Prime Minister as groundbreaking, already proved to be unworkable?
Heading for the Chancellor, she's facing a £50 billion black hole in the budget.
Prince Harry has lost his battle for control of his charity Centre Ballet as the charity watchdog criticised him for his part in the damaging bullying row which engulfed the organisation.
Bill and Hillary Clinton have been ordered to testify in an investigation into paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. It follows Donald Trump's refusal to release files on the child sex offender.
Donald Trump's envoy will visit Moscow today as the deadline he's given to Vladimir Putin to end the Ukraine war approaches.
And they are
the Scottish-based space company, looking for a launch site. We'll be meeting Skyrora, who've just been given the license to send rockets into space.
Today marks 80 years since the Hiroshima bomb was dropped. So we're asking, is it time we banned nuclear weapons?
And in sport this morning, Rangers move closer to Champions League qualification, but still have 3 games to go. Manchester United in Newcastle fighting out for Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko. And in cricket, the 100 gets underway with one of the highlights being a fox on the pitch. Not that downplaying cricket.
Well, it's a fine day for many today. However, there will be a spell of rain pushing through tomorrow. I'll have the details coming up.
Just after 6 o'clock, a very good morning to you. I'm Eamon Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello. This is GB News Breakfast. ABC iView.
Today, thousands of Queensland teachers march on Parliament House in their first strike in 16 years. Jeremy Rockcliffe to face a fresh no-confidence motion after being reappointed as Premier of Tasmania.
Tasmanians can be assured that any motion we move will not result in another election. It will result in either a Liberal government or a Labor government.
The United Nations expresses alarm over reports Israel's leader is considering a full Gaza takeover. And thousands gather in Japan to mark 80 years since the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Welcome to ABC News, I'm Rose Childs. More than 50,000 Queensland state school teachers are on strike amid a row with the government over pay and conditions. The Teachers' Union has waged a lengthy campaign and has flatly rejected an 8% wage rise offer over 3 years. Ollie Slattery reports.
Thousands of teachers have gathered in Brisbane today to take part in this strike action. Here at the Brisbane Convention Centre, there's 4,000 teachers marching towards the steps of State Parliament. Now, they say that this is them at the end of their tenure. After months of pay negotiations, they flatly refused a pay deal of 8% over 3 years, saying it just does not cut it.
Petrovic's Soleil. Watch Paris des Arts with Valérie Fayol on France 24 and France24.com.
Hello and a warm welcome to you. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the headlines this hour. Japan marks the 80th anniversary of the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a commemoration that comes at a time when world leaders once again start to increase their stockpiles of nuclear weapons. Hundreds gather for a minute's silence there, reflecting on that anniversary of humanity's first atomic bomb. Former US President Bill Clinton and former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton subpoenaed. They're called on to testify in the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and who knew what and when about the sex offender. The Justice Department also called on to hand over its files. Tens of thousands of people in Sudan face starvation, famine conditions caused by the war between paramilitary groups and the army. A war that's been raging for over 3 years and has seen the world's largest displacement of people.
DW documentary.
This is DW News and these are our top stories. Israeli media is reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is considering a full occupation of the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu has said he would convene the cabinet to approve a new war plan, but he appears to be at odds with the chief of the Israel Defense Forces, who is against a total military takeover. Bangladesh's interim leader Mohammad Yunus has announced that national elections will be held next February. The move came as thousands took to the streets to celebrate the first anniversary of the uprising that removed former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from power. More than 1,400 people lost their lives during last year's protests before Hasina was forced to resign and fled to India. At least 4 people are dead and dozens more are missing after a landslide engulfed a village in the Indian state of Uttarakhand. Officials say emergency services and army teams are engaged in rescue efforts. The mudslide was triggered by flash flooding after heavy rain. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find much more on our website, that's dw.com.
It is at 6 a.m. on today's breakfast program. Prince Harry declared of bullying in a report into the charity he founded in his mother's memory.
Plus, the Chancellor is told she must find £40 billion in tax rises or spending cuts to meet her fiscal rules in the autumn budget.
It is Wednesday, the 6th of August. The Charity Commission finds no evidence of bullying at Prince Harry's former charity in Centre Mali, which accuses and criticises him and the chair, Dr. Sophie Chandoka, of allowing their dispute to play out in public. The world remembers Hiroshima 80 years on from the first ever use of an atomic bomb in war. And the vanishing dream of home ownership, rent, parent. Good morning. The Charity Commission has found no evidence linked to Mali. That's the charity set up by Prince Harry. That's despite accusations from his chair, who used an interview
This is Asia Now.
It's 11 a.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 8:30 in New Delhi, and 10 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Suk. At this hour, squally showers in Hong Kong after record rainfall crippled parts of the city. Extreme downpours triggered widespread floods and stranded vehicles. A search is underway in India after a flash flood tore through a Himalayan village. At least 4 are dead and 100 missing after a cloudburst triggered a torrent of mud and destruction. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will reportedly propose a full reoccupation of Gaza, despite opposition from senior military leaders. A senior UN official calls the potential operation deeply alarming.
That's Mexico free trade deal.
Violent crime in America. Despite perceptions, the FBI says it is going down, but still taking a heavy toll on the men and women on the front lines. From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News. Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois. John Dickerson is off. The numbers may not seem to sync up with the images you see day after day on your television, but the FBI reported today that crime in this country is falling in every major category, including murder. Nationwide last year, violent crime fell 4.5%. Murder alone was down 15%. It's even down in Chicago, the city whose weekend gun death count often led the national news. Usher Qureshi is there tonight. And Usher, what is behind these numbers?
Well, Maurice, as you mentioned, Chicago has had violent stretches, including during the pandemic. But as we learned from the police superintendent today, like many cities across the country, if you look closely at the crime numbers, there is reason to be optimistic.
I think we're really on to something.
Jashawn Hill runs Chicago Survivors, a group that counsels families of homicide victims. At the height of the pandemic in 2021, her nonprofit was operating in a city where more than 800 people were murdered.
I don't have the same sense of anxiety about how many homicides they're going to have this weekend.
California's biggest wildfire of the summer. The intense flames expanding to 82,000 acres. High conditions push fires across the West. Hundreds of structures threatened, keeping crews on their toes. Across the country, skies choked with bad air, causing poor visibility, slowing flights. Al Roker tonight standing by to tell us when it will all let up. Also breaking the manhunt and arrest of a man accused of killing 4 members of one family. The surveillance video of his final hours at large and how this morning he was finally spotted inside the woods. Plus the new subpoenas in the Jeffrey Epstein case. House Republicans targeting the Clintons and more. The new pressure on the Trump administration
to release documents in that case. One sank the Titan submersible, the new report saying it was preventable and that the company owned it, was warned its design was flawed for years and that the hull was damaged before the doomed journey to the deep. Tonight, how the company's leaders allegedly silenced concerns. The devastating flash flood inundating a village in India. Rescuers describing the near impossible effort to save lives. And 80 years later, the moment that changed war forever, we return to Hiroshima, the site where the U.S. dropped the bomb, and President Truman threatened a rain of ruin. Our team speaking to survivors about echoes of the past and their warnings for the future. And the heroes in a helicopter, when two of Baltimore's finest got a call about a man drowning. Their quick-thinking emergency landing to save his life. You'll see the video. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. At least 8 more Palestinians starved to death in Gaza over the last 24 hours, including 7 children, raising the hunger-related death toll to 188. Palestinian officials say Israel is allowing just 86 trucks carrying desperately needed food, medicine, and other supplies into Gaza per day, far short of the 600 trucks that aid organizations say are needed daily to meet the basic needs of Gaza's more than 2 million people. On Monday, scores of Palestinians stood in long lines outside a makeshift soup kitchen in Khan Yunis hoping for a meal.
This aid does not reach us. We do not see it. People like us do not get aid. Most of the people do not get the aid. We hear about it in the news, but we do not see it. We do not see it on the ground. I hope that the crossings open and that the food enters and the flour and the aid enters for people and that this big crisis that we are living ends.
Israeli attacks across Gaza over the past day killed at least 87 Palestinians, including 52 people seeking food and aid. Another 644 people were injured, bringing the official death toll of the wounded to over 150,000 since October 2023. Meanwhile, there are reports of heavy airstrikes and artillery fire as Israel steps up its assault on Gaza. Israeli media is reporting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to announce plans to fully occupy the entire Gaza Strip, including areas where it's believed Hamas is holding Israeli hostages. Israeli forces.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett. Ahmed Abbas is away. On the NewsHour tonight, new propaganda video of hostages being held by Hamas ramp up the pressure on Israel to reach a ceasefire. We speak with the cousin of one of the hostages forced to dig his own grave.
They actually managed to break his spirit using this horrible terror tactics of starving him deliberately.
Recent trade deals come with a promise to buy U.S. energy in exchange for lower tariffs. But how realistic are those pledges, and can the president deliver on his plans? And a worrying decline in maternal mental health, what the research and mothers themselves say could be the cause.
I lay awake at night, worried about my children's future, if worse things happen in our economy, or if things get more difficult for us.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by
Africa News. The news. Cameroon's Constitutional Council has rejected opposition leader Maurice Kamto's candidacy for the October 2025 presidential election, dismissing his appeal as lacking legal justification. Kamto's lawyer denounced the decision as politically motivated, warning it sows the seeds of electoral fraud. We believe that we came before the Constitutional Council fully aware that it is more political than legal. That is to say, it functioned 3% legally and 97% politically. That explains the decision that was just delivered. This decision, overwhelmingly driven by political impulses, essentially legitimizes fraud, and that is why we say it tarnishes the electoral process, which was meant to be a democratic process. With legal options exhausted, Kamto's lawyers state no further appeals are possible, passing responsibility to political actors to determine the next steps. We are not going to seek a remedy when the law does not provide for one. Since this is a decision driven by political reasons, political remedies remain open. But that is no longer the lawyer's job. Their legal work is done, and they believe they did it properly. We are witnessing the realization of a political drama orchestrated to legitimize a decision that already has been made behind closed doors. We are in what some have often referred to as the political use of institutions, the political use of law, where political opponents co-opt the law and institutions to undermine their rivals.
Les institutions pour pouvoir mettre en difficulté leurs adversaires.
Amid rising tensions, authorities have issued stern warnings against disturbances to public order. Meanwhile, opposition forces are rallying for a unified coalition to challenge the incumbent government.
Rwanda has formally agreed to accept up to 250 migrants deported from the United States under a bilateral initiative signed in June 2025. Rwandan spokesperson said that the arrangement reflects the nation's values built on the reintegration and rehabilitation given Rwanda's history of displacement. Each deportee will be vetted before arrival and provided with workforce training, healthcare, and accommodation support to facilitate their integration into one of Africa's fastest growing economies. Washington reportedly already submitted a preliminary list of 10 individuals for approval. Deportees will only be accepted if they have completed any prison terms or have no pending criminal cases. Child sex offenders are excluded. They are not required to stay permanently in Rwanda, and the U.S. is offering undisclosed financial support to Kigali through a grant based on integration needs.
France has proposed a new bill to fast-track the return of African artifacts that have been illegally taken from its former colonies. The proposal is long awaited since French President Emmanuel Macron declared in 2017 that he would make the return of African artifacts a top priority for his government in the next 5 years. The Minister of Culture submitted the law on July 30th, and if passed, it will allow the French government to approve by decree the return of cultural property without Parliament approval, a move that could cut down processing times by years. However, the bill establishes other complex requirements that slow down returns, French legislators said. Countries need to provide adequate documentation to a bilateral scientific committee that their artifact was stolen, looted, or sold under duress between 1815 and 1972. France will not return any military items, public archives, or objects found during archaeological digs. The Senate is expected to vote on the new bill on September 24th.
China and Russia conducted their latest bilateral naval exercise, Joint Sea 2025, in the Sea of Japan near Vladivostok. The drill, which began on Sunday, focused on multi-domain operations, including submarine rescue, joint anti-submarine warfare, air defense, anti-missile engagements, and live-fire artillery exercises. These maneuvers aim to enhance coordination between the two militaries. I have taken part in this exercise for 3 years now, and the mutual understanding between the two parties has greatly improved. The exercises come just days after former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev's controversial remarks prompted US President Donald Trump to deploy 2 nuclear submarines to appropriate regions. The drills underscore deepening Sino-Russian relations.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.